What is up, faithful? You guys are probably on the last second sports call with me, Coach David and Jesse. I'm back. I know I told you guys I'd be back to give you guys some draft analysis. Now I'm waiting on Coach. Coach said he was going to join me in a few minutes. Hopefully he joins me. Thing I have noticed is during this draft, I'm going to go ahead and go and name a couple of guys who just been drafted. Um, I know we didn't do the last guy that got drafted, I believe, was in the fifth, maybe sixth. So started the sixth. Walter Rouse went. A guy I was high on the Niners to get at an offensive tackle. Um, if my computer would act right. Jeez. So hopefully someone comes in. About time, right, brother Bob? Right, about time. Now we've seen Walter Rouse, Logan Lee, Satoa Lomoe. I just saw that the Dolphins selected a guy named Malik Washington, guys that a couple of us were excited about. I'm hoping, brother Bob, if you want, I can send you the link too. So let me know if you want to hop on. We could talk some draft of how the Niners have done. If you guys want, we could even make this even a call-in show in a way. Mekhi Wingo is still there. That's a player that the 49ers should probably trade up for. You have not addressed the trenches. Defensive tackle is still an issue, right? You have guys who are on small years, 2-year contracts. To me, that's where you got to move up. Jace McKillen just went, Alabama running back. I'm glad the Eagles went Johnny Wilson. That is a terrible pick. Probably one of the players I did not really care for in this draft class. Matt Morrison says, anybody feel a Debo post June 1st trade might be coming? They absolutely could do post June 1st with Debo's contract. Now, I'm going to go ahead and pull up Debo's contract real quick. Debo Samuel's contract. I believe his post June 1st contract, the way it operates is they save more money by trading him post June 1st. However, the draft capital in the win now mode, it kind of puts you in a situation that you're not necessarily in win now mode, because the best opportunity to win a Super Bowl is with Brandon Ayuk and Debo Samuel on your roster. Post June 1st, the 49ers would take a $15 million dead cap next year in 2025, save 21 this year, but they could roll that 21 million they save over. If they were to trade him before June 1st, which was during the draft, they would eat 21.7 million this year, save 6.8 million, and they would have a good chunk of money to spend next offseason. So depending on where it goes, Ahmed, that's what I'm saying. 50, that's what I'm saying. I mean, I sent him the link. I know he said he was going to go get some water or something real quick. Hopefully Coach joins. I could also drop the link. We can kind of make it a call-in show. If you guys want, let me know. Dolphins do love speed. They went Malik Washington. Ryu Ken says our biggest competitors got better. Not sure if we can get the 1 seed. Definitely brother Bob, I'll send you the link so you can hop in, and then we'll do you as well. So those who want to watch brother Bob, geez, it's gonna be an interesting one now, huh? Brother Bob, I sent it to you on Twitter if you want. So for me, Coach might be going. He really might be. He really might be. It's but now for me, like Ryu says, a lot of teams did get better, but so did the Niners, man. Like as much as we want to say the Niners didn't get better, the Niners did get better, man. Getting Renardo Green was a really good pick. Getting Puny solves a situation at center guard for me. I do like Pearsall as a player. I just don't like where they took him. I thought the safety was a really good pick because it allows you to go different coverages. So for me, we did get better. I don't want to sit here and say we didn't get better. That's definitely one of the things I'm not going to say. I felt like we got better in certain situations. Again, we are looking at the 49ers in terms of what we want them to do, right? As fan base, we want them to up their offensive line. Now, Kyle he truly might say, you know what? I don't think we have an offensive lineman on this roster or in this draft that's going to come in and beat someone out immediately. So that's why they didn't go with the first 2 rounds. They may see Puny as a guy where, you know what? He's a guy who could play next year. We might lose Aaron Banks. We have a situation at right guard where there's a need. So it's a need, but it's not for the direct now. So I think that's why we're kind of looking at it as, oh man, that's tough. But I don't want to kill the 49ers. Shout out to Eric Wallace. Hey y'all, huge Seahawks fan here, but I'm not a trash talker. Hey, we appreciate that, man. I appreciate anyone who is here to talk football, man. That's what I'm about. I'm gonna be giving my draft analysis on every team in every division. So definitely we'll be talking about Seattle football. So if you want to stick around, not gonna do that today. I only sent the picture. Oh, I did only send the picture. My bad, brother. Let me go ahead and copy the link. My bad. Copy link. Brother Bob thought he was gonna get in. I only sent him the picture of it. He thinks he's coming. He really thought he was invited. Brother Bob, you're officially invited to the cookout. Sent you the link. We did get better. And that's the thing, is we have a huge team, very good players, so I'm not worried about it. Do you think Green is gonna start? Shout out to David hopping in. So we're gonna have a couple of us in here. Let me go ahead and take my banners off. Brother Bob's hopping in with us too. There's Coach. Never mind, Brother Bob. You don't got to join if you don't want to. So what I was talking about is, this is a great question, and sorry, Coach, you're in that situation where
I got you.
But I'll take this question down. So do you think Green is gonna start year one? And
Yeah,
we'll go with Coach first.
Yeah, I do. I think he's going to start year one. Obviously, Mooney is going to start. Demo is going to start, but we have to figure out what we're going to do on the outside. Now, Demo got pushed to the slot. Demo got pushed to the nickel by necessity, right? Because we had injuries at that spot and we really couldn't do anything. I believe Isaiah Oliver was a choice that really didn't help us out in the long run. And actually, Demo showed really good I want to say progression as far as him being an overall corner at the outside, but I feel like he shined at the nickel. And right now they're probably looking for another guy to be on the outside as well. So I think it's really Green's job to lose, honestly. Of course, they're going to make him fight for it, rightfully so. He's got Isaac Yadam is over there, Darrell Luter Jr., Samuel Womack. Of course, Ambry Thomas is still in the mix. But right now, I feel like the front runner for that opposite outside corner spot of Mooney Ward would be Green.
And then I know, Coach, I don't know if you want to answer this one, but Ahmed 50 says, Coach, how you been? Ain't seen you in a long time. Truth of the matter is,
tip of the spear. Oh, that's a joke.
How you been, man?
I've been good, man. I mean, just like I said, bro, like my parents, they got in a head-on collision on the 1st of April. And it's I mean, my parents, I got a family just like everybody else. Like the dynamics are just like everybody else's. They're the center of everything that we do. You know what I'm saying? So I'm over here at work and we get the call, and obviously we're just trying to make sure that, number one, they're of sound mind and body. You know, you want to make sure that you still have like your parents, you know, in spirit and in just, you know, character. That's one. And then two, it's just making sure that they can respond and, you know, get back onto the road of recovery in the right way. You know, if it was one of them, it's already bad enough. But the fact that it was both of them, my parents have been together for almost 50 years. You know what I'm saying? So with them almost being together damn near 50 years, they got married in 77. This is like the first time that they haven't been able to take care of each other. So a lot of that was just giving them the space to be able to heal and kind of, you know, hey, tell us what you want us to do. You know, I have 2 sisters and another brother. So for us, you know, it's just, we responded just like any other family would. It's all
man. Family comes first, man. Family's bigger than sports, bigger than football and stuff like that, man. To prayers to your parents, hope they're doing well, man. I didn't know that happened. I know you were gone for a little bit. I don't know why, but wish I would have reached out to you to make sure everything was good, man. So prayers up to your family. Hope they're doing well. Are they doing better? Are they doing better now?
They're on the road to recovery, man. Everything's
recovery. Hey, Brother Rob, I think you have playback coming from. I think you're listening to us on your screen, and we're getting playback from you.
Your headphones?
Yo, do you hear me?
I can hear you.
We're good.
Mekhi Wingo goes to the Detroit Lions. That's a really good pick for. That's interesting. So,
well, that was a trade up with the Eagles again. The Eagles traded to them. I mean,
And the Eagles probably should have took Mekhi Wingo. Jordan Davis over there is not a good defensive tackle. That's something they probably should have taken Mekhi Wingo. Now, the Eagles have had an interesting draft. I don't think they've gotten much better in terms of what they've taken. I know a lot of people are going to look at their draft class and think, oh, wow, just because they traded so many times and they've gotten picks next year. I get getting picks next year, but that's not always going to win you games.
And another guy they just drafted the Eagles was Johnny Wilson, the pick after the Dolphins got Malik Washington. So, boy, I tell you, that was my guy, Malik Washington. Ways goes into the 6th round. I know the Dolphins, we kind of were skewering them a little bit of what they'd done, but I will say this, they've got some guys that can pairing Washington, I think, with what they already have at receiver is a sneaky little, it's a luxury pick there. And Johnny Wilson to go the next play. Yeah, I don't know exactly sure where he finds time, but it's the 6th round for a reason.
Brother Bob, what are your thoughts on how the Niners have done? I know you're going to have an interesting take. I know you're going to have some opinions, voice your opinion. I'm curious to hear what you have to say.
Absolutely, my brother. Well, first of all, again, thanks for having me on here. Man, I'm just shocked, to say the least, about that 1st round pick. Pearsall seems to be, good as far as being polished, professional as far as wanting, get the job done from his film. But I just think it was a reach. I think it was a reach with what we need. And I think we're at that point of, okay, are we going all in for this year? And are we also trying to retool? And I just don't think he fits either category unless we're thinking retooling for the future, getting rid of getting rid of Debo after this coming season. But you would think, or maybe even getting rid of Jennings, as you guys said earlier, maybe he can play a little bit this year. So it's just kind of interesting to see, unless some receivers are moved. I just think Pearsall is a reach. I do like the draft addressing needs as in corner, safety, and O-line, but I would have preferred us to see, as a longtime fan of this team, see us go after tackles, because we're old in the tooth with Trent Williams, and we've got McGibbets, and we don't have really anyone in the pipeline. We got Jalen Moore, but I don't think he's a quality starter in the NFL. So it would have been nice to see us go that route as far as addressing the tackle positions.
Out of all these starters that we have, this is going to be a kind of like a roundtable discussion now. Which of the guys do you see to make the most so far as of now? I mean, we could take a 6th round player that you're like, you know what, that's the steal of the draft, right? So 7th round, we don't know who they're going to take or whatever. Who do you think so far to this point is going to have the most impact? And this is going off of draft, right? Not necessarily camp wise or anything like that. Who will have the most impact for the 49ers year one? And we'll go David first, and then we'll go around.
Yeah, I have a belief that all these guys are going to show more contributions. There's this idea that redshirt, and I think they've gone with older players who are ready to go. I'm going to say, I want to say Renardo Green, because that's my guy. I just don't know exactly what role that is and where the competition comes from and how he sees the field right away, but I think he will. I still say that I think Ricky Pearsall, and I think that's why they drafted him there. I think they have a plan for him. I think that he is going to go into that slot. I think he's going to see the field a lot. I think he's going to see a lot of targets. I think he's going to be one of those rookies that's going to get more volume than you might imagine. I'm not saying that and I know Brother Bobby had this concerns about the pick, but if you're asking me who's going to be I'm not saying who's going to be the best player, but who's going to go see the field the most right away. I think that, and then I would go with Purdy, depending on what Feliciano is. Now, Feliciano came back. It seems like what was his injury again, Marco, that put him out in the Super Bowl? Like it was just a elbow.
I'm not sure, man.
Yeah. So I think he's healthy, but we'll see. Feliciano is also not a spring chicken. And I think that they drafted him with the intent of trying to get him in there right away. And so that can make sense. But yeah, I think I'll just say about Pearsall. I do think that they drafted him with the intent of using him and not sitting him. And so that's who I think sees the field the most. And probably Purdy would be number 2, and then Green.
What about you, Coach?
Well, I do see a role for Pearsall, and Renaldo Green is actually somebody that I feel like can can compete and it makes sense for him to be an immediate contributor. But I do feel like as Isaac Yadam may have something to say about that competition, honestly. I don't think that he's definitely like a locked in concrete guy. Who I do see being able to immediately help us is Malik Mustafa. I think that we really have a hole at the free safety position. We really do. And I believe that right now, having somebody and a young defensive coordinator like Nick Sorensen, when you're a young coach and you're a young head coach or a young coach where you're leading a unit or a side of the ball, one thing that you want to do is you want to be able to kind of like make your mark on what you do best, right? Your subject matter expertise. And Nick Sorensen is a safety. He's played it. It's what he does. It's what he did for the defense of the 49ers, where he helped prepare pass game. And I think that in some instances, you kind of need a pupil to kind of bring out your coaching chops and kind of bring out like your curriculum as an educator. You kind of need that student that kind of is the sponge to show the type of coach you are. And I feel like if there was any time for there to be somebody who is going to be trusted as a young player right now, the fact that we have Nick Sorensen in tow as our defensive coordinator and actually the needing a free safety, I think Malik Mustafa will definitely get penciled in, and he'll be an immediate contributor, on top of the fact that he's a sneaky special teams contributor. I don't think that that's necessarily been brought up about Malik Mustafa, but he's a demon in the kickoff return and in punt return as well. I think Malik Mustafa is my immediate contributor.
Well, that's interesting. Brother Bob, you were excited when he mentioned Malik Mustafa. Is that someone that you agree with, or what are your thoughts on who's going to be the number one contributor as a rookie for the Niners?
Oh, I definitely think it's Mustafa. There's a little bit of a logjam at corner, as Coach just said. You know, we picked up some guys, and I just don't know if, although I do love Green, I do think, I said it last night, I do think the word of Green, I love seeing a sticky, he may be too handsy, but I love seeing a sticky corner who has some height. He's almost 6 foot, got decent speed. But I do think the opening will be possibly at safety. So I think it could be Mustafa. Now, I just don't know, is he a true free safety? Can he play? I mean, he seems, based on when I'm looking at his numbers, more of a strong safety. And so do we move Jameer Brown back to free safety? I see him more as a strong safety too. But I do think that's a guy that has some potential to really contribute this year as a rookie.
I'm gonna go, and it's gonna be interesting because I kind of like was down on the pick when it initially happened, and everyone knows I'm not a huge fan of Isaac Guerendo, but I think he's gonna be the biggest impact in terms of on special teams. Being with the new special teams rule, I think there's a chance that he may return a kick. Like, he's gonna be that special team guy on kick returns. So I think he has the easiest route to the field, because special teams, that's your easiest route to get onto the field. You start making plays special team wise, then your offensive coordinator, head coach goes, hey, you know what? Maybe if I put the ball in his hands every once in a while, I could get something out of him. So I'm going to go Isaac Guerendo just because of the special teams ability. And when I'm looking at that, I think Renardo Green is the easy answer in terms of, I think he may start week 1. Like, he truly can start opposite of Trivarius Ward if we have Demo inside, or go nickel, you kick Demo inside, Green comes in kind of mentality. But I'm going to go there. I know a couple of questions have been brought up. Will Debo's season role be reduced to gadget or only running back downs, play action style? He shouldn't be one of the 2 to 4 receivers on pure passing downs. And let you guys know, I don't have super chat, so you guys can go ahead and just send your guys' questions or comments away as we're talking. Do you guys think Debo's a reduced role now that Ricky Pearsall is here and we got Jacob Cowan?
Yeah, I'm not convinced Debo's still going to be here, and I'm not saying he will. But yeah, I mean, I don't look at this as what Brother Bob said about Green makes sense. You guys said about the log jam at corner. I also think the guy for instance, Green is a guy that you love what he brings and who he can be. And if Trivarius Ward isn't here next year, you didn't wait till you needed it, right? You got it going him in the system. Yeah, I think that Debo is going to see his usage go down. I think that you're going to see I think you're going to see everybody. You even brought up Garendo. I think Kyle knows that he cannot keep playing with fire, going to the well, giving these guys every snap. I think he has to. I think he has to get fresh legs. I think he has to get guys these reps and experience in there, and come in tears with these guys. And so, yeah, I do. I think that I don't think Debo is going to be super high volume. I would have thought so if they were keeping him and then ride it till your wheels come off and then be able to get rid of him next year. And I hate to say you're abusing a player, but I think if they're not going to be bringing him back next year, they don't really care, right? And so I don't know. Yeah.
What up, Cynthia? And for me, I hope they reduce his role, and I'm going to give it. It's going to be an interesting. I think he's on the team. I don't think they're going to trade him from here on out. The reason why I want him to be in a reduced role, come playoff time, we get fresh Debo. Fresh Debo is an interesting Debo. We haven't seen Debo fresh in the playoffs. And when you get Debo fresh in the playoffs, you get him on those end arounds, you get him on, just get the ball in his hands on quick bubble screens. Anything can happen when you have a healthy, fresh Debo. I think the reduction of his role, it's worth it, especially you're already paying him. You can't, there's nothing you could do. You trade him, you're losing money, you now or later. So for me, might as well just reduce his role and have him ready for the playoffs. What are your thoughts, Brother Bob?
You know what? That's a good one. See, I do agree that reducing his role, but first, before we get to that, will he be incentivized this year? Would he have the incentive? Would he have the motivation? Because what Coach said and what David said, everyone said earlier is true about Debo. I mean, Debo just doesn't seem like he has it the whole year. So the question becomes, will this piss him off? Will this motivate him to be what he needs to be? Likewise, I do think that, man, I'm concerned when we talk about Debo being on this team, because I just don't see what we can get of value for him that would help this team this year if we trade him post June 1. Like, what do we get? And does it make any sense to do that? And that's what I'm curious about.
So just to go to a couple of picks real quick, I know Joe Milton went to the Patriots. The Bengals draft tight end out of Arizona, Tanner McLaurin. So just a couple of picks have gone off the board. Niners still have a little ways away, but there is some talent there. So I'm very curious, Coach. What are your thoughts in terms of the Debo usage?
Yeah, I'm all for it. I think it needs to be in more of a reduced role because, as the season progresses, teams get muscle memory. You start understanding how, what your best plays are, during situations during the game, what you guys are looking for to win games. And I feel like Debo sometimes in certain ways is irresponsibly used. I feel like he's brute forced into the game plan at times. There's really no flow, rhyme, or reason why he gets the ball, when he gets the ball. We just know the fashion in which he gets the ball, right? He gets the ball closer to the line of scrimmage, end arounds, bubble screens, now routes. And what was a wrinkle last season was starting to get Debo on those fade routes. Those back shoulder fade routes is something that we saw earlier on in the season last year that quite frankly, we couldn't count on Debo to stay consistent with those routes. He wasn't winning them anymore, so there was no reason of running them. I do agree with the reduced role due to the fact that when it is time for Debo to be used, he's going to be fresh and he's going to be motivated. I feel like there is something to be said about kind of letting Kyle not use that as an excuse not to use everybody else, right? He needs to be in more of a reduced role so we can start watching other players grow. Because if you don't, then what we're really going to be talking about, 6 months from now into the middle of the season is that we drafted Pearsall and he's only got like 25 catches on the season. You know what I'm saying? And we're sitting here looking at, well, why are we, the elephant in the room is going to be Debo is getting his touches, but we're going to be looking at so many other things around it instead of telling the truth, right? Like Brock can't get him the ball. The offensive line isn't there. It's just like, no, the fact of the matter is that there's only one ball. There's only so many reps. All right. And for this kid to be utilized and for him to grow, we're either going to pigeonhole him in a role or we're going to sit somebody down and let them grow. Because to be honest with you, if you think about it with Debo, George, and BA, when George played, we didn't have any real number one receivers. George had as much room to grow as he did because that was the offense at the time, right? When Debo came on, he was able to grow. We didn't have anybody else there. We actually had to go get Emmanuel Sanders in the middle of the season in 2019 just to be able to pace him through. But he still was able to get the next season where the entire offense was Debo's because we had nothing else. What happened when BA got here? COVID year. We had nothing else but BA, and BA was able to be leaned on his entire rookie year, and he grew. But that's not really what Kyle wants to do. If Kyle had it his way, he'd have everybody in their nice little position, doing their nice little role, and operating the offense the way he sees fit. The truth is that that's not going to work for this kid. Pearsall, if you pigeonhole his skill set, you're going to be frustrated that he's not doing exactly what you want him to do when he gets the ball. He's going to need room to grow. Ergo, somebody's going to have to sit down, and it's Debo.
Now, I did notice, and shout out to Sunil for this question, because this is something I noticed in this draft. Sunil's question goes, do you think the 49ers have changed draft strategy to higher floor than higher ceiling guys due to them needing to hit more on picks now that money's going to be tight? This is a very interesting question because everyone said this is probably one of the biggest drafts in the 49ers recent history outside of the Trey Lance pick because of all those big numbers and then the quarterback being paid. Let's go around. Like, is this something the Niners may have done strategically? Like, hey, let's go high floor. Who cares if they don't have a super high ceiling? But, hey, are we getting dudes who could play now? Let's go with David first.
Well, part of what I want to look at there is I want to just I think that's a great question. And then what I want to do is go through who these guys drafted. And is that always the case, right? So if I look at like the 2020 draft, you had Javon Kinlaw and Brandon Ayuk. I don't think trading it for Brandon Ayuk, I don't think there was a look at Ayuk as a guy that was, I think they looked at him as a high ceiling, but I don't think they looked at him as a big gamble. I thought they looked at him as a guy that could really come in and play. Colton, and other than that, wait a minute. Oh, shoot. In that draft, did they not draft again until after Ayuk? Who was the did they not?
They had 2 firsts, and then I don't think they had another pick until like the 3rd or 4th.
Right. So they went down to Colton McKivitz. That was the Colton McKivitz, Charlie Warner, Juwan Jennings, right? So it's hard to say, right? If I go back even to look at the 2022 draft, which is pretty bad, but you didn't have after Trey was gone or drafted, you didn't have any picks. I'm not sure. And I don't know how much it has to do with money or how much it has to do with fitting in the window and wanting to be able to get contributors now and not be able to roster guys that aren't going to see the field. I think that's something that I would say is a quibble of mine. I think good teams draft for not what you need right now to be at your best, but I think good teams also should be drafting guys that can be contributors and not just redshirted in perpetuity. And so I think it's a blend. And I think it's actually a really good question. I just don't know if it's completely true that all of the picks in the past several drafts have been leaning towards more high ceiling and not high floor.
What about you, Brother Bob?
That's a tough one, man. It's tough because, I agree with Dave. It's really tough. I think we should be going for high ceiling guys, personally. Guys that can contribute maybe a year from now. We have a pretty strong team. The high floor sounds good, but as we've discussed several times, you guys have actually, will these guys be really performing this year? And by the time they're really hitting their prime, will it be time for the second contract? I think that, to me, it'd be best to try to get best player available at neat positions and also with the highest ceiling. I don't know if we've done that this draft, at least obviously not the first round and the first couple of rounds actually that we drafted.
Absolutely. And for me, I don't necessarily know if they're going high floor guys or they're going with the guy of the safer pick. What I do know is this draft class wasn't great. Like, truthfully, the NIL deals, it's the NIL contracts and everything. Like, it's gonna push players to truthfully be going back to school and be fifth-year guys. I mean, if you're going to get more money your fifth year as a fifth-year senior than your rookie year, why not go do that? Especially if you know your draft status is in the fifth round. So for them, they could go get better, put more film out there. They could up their draft ceiling. So for me, that's where I'm looking at it more than anything. Because in my opinion, this draft class wasn't that great. Like it's everything I saw from it, at least from when I was watching film. It was like, okay, cool. Top 75 players are solid starters. Outside of that is guys who could be backup level players. Shout out to Edgar. Yo, Fernando Bros, fan and channels. Let's go. Appreciate you. We also have Ahmed 50. Any of y'all know who Daryl Green Beckham was? He was a receiver that
he receiver.
wasn't that good. He was like high up ceiling guy, but no floor.
Didn't he go to Bowling Green?
I think he might have been.
Dorian Green Beckham.
But
Missouri.
Yep.
It was Missouri. So the Niners they're about maybe 15 picks away, I think, roughly. I haven't really looked at it. Is there anyone that is left in this draft class that you're like, this would be an absolute steal if the 49ers could land this player in the 6th round? For example, Mekhi Wingo just went to the Detroit Lions in the 6th. That's an absolute steal. Malik Washington to the Dolphins. That is a steal of a pick. I don't know how he sees the field, but that is a steal of a pick. Any guys that are there that you're like is a steal.
Steal or just like a player I really like?
You can be a player you really like, but if it's in the 6th round, it's likely a steal if it's a player you really like.
I'll say this. I know was where you thought you would take him, but I would have been comfortable in the 5th. I really like Jaheim Bell. I think he offers an interesting skill set offensively. I think this would be a perfect spot for him if they can get him. I would say, in the Tylen Grable, offensive tackle out of UCF, you're talking about guys that like wanting to address the line of, why not take a flyer on one of these guys and see what they can offer? And maybe you get a diamond in the rough. Christian Mahogany, I would say would be a steal. Bo Limmer would be a steal here. As far as other than that, Christian Boyd, I don't know if it's a steal, is about where I would have taken him, but I like Christian Boyd out of Northern Iowa. And after that, Miles Harden, Dwight McGlothern, those are cornerbacks I really love, and I think that's about kind of where I'm at. I think this is a quarterback. I think that this could be a spot where could this be a place where Michael Pratt, a guy that has could be like a similar skill set to a Brock Purdy, and that be a younger, better version of Brandon Allen and cheaper.
Coach, do you have anyone at this range that you're like, hey, they're still there if he's there when we pick?
Mahogany and Jaheim Bell.
But would Mahogany be a redundant pick, knowing that he's not going to play because they just took Puny, or would you let them compete for that right guard spot?
I mean, but that's kind of the conversation that I wanted to have, Marco, with how do I feel about the draft picks that we have thus far? Like, I mean, are we repurposing a process or are we revitalizing it? That's the question that I would ask, right? Like, is this repurposing a standard, or are we revitalizing the standard to a new level, right? Because these guys are getting older. This is one thing that about sports is that the reason why the standard is awesome is that the players themselves are going to have to come to a point where they can't keep the standard. You know why? Because they're going to get older, okay? And they're not going to be as good as they are. So that's why we're here, to make sure that we keep the standard, because they're not going to be honest on when they can't keep it anymore because they're making millions of dollars. Okay. So that's the jukes. That's why we hold them accountable. So my question when I ask myself is when I coached, right, and, bring in new recruits, one of the reasons why I love recruiting is because it brings in new blood into the program, and new blood breeds competition, right? And when you bring in new blood and it brings in competition, it's the type of new blood that you want to bring in to raise the floor, right? It's the one time during the year where you get to say, hey, my one guy that I've wrapped my arms around and I say that you're my guy, now is the time where I get to see if you're really that guy again. All right, you got to revitalize that every year. Rinse due every year. And from my opinion, you have to ask yourself, who in this draft class is coming in and they're either filling a role or they're competing for a job? That's the difference. That's the difference between bad teams and good teams, okay? Good teams, everybody is coming in competing for a spot that's already filled, okay? Because that's what makes you better. Either the guy that we have has beat off the new blood that we brought in and you deserve to be on the field because that's the law of the jungle, or you got killed off by the guy that we brought in. Not we have holes. We're bringing in this guy. He's already got his ceiling. Hopefully he comes in and does a great job for us because he needs to add on to what we've already done. So what I've seen from the draft thus far is I've seen these guys. I've seen the lack of Adam Peters being in the room, showing timidness. They're not really striking at players that are high ceiling. They're not really striking at guys that are actually pushing to compete. There's nobody in this draft, maybe Malik Mustafa. There's nobody in this draft where the pros that are watching this draft are gulping, or where they're going to go work harder in the offseason because they're like, shit, did you see what they got in the draft this year? Do you see the draft class they got coming in this year? I'm not going to get caught slipping with this new tackle that they brought in here. I'm not going to get caught slipping with this new receiver that they just brought in here. So my opinion is that they've brought in guys to add on to what they already have to keep the standard, but they're not necessarily trying to make it better. Ergo, you're not staying the same. You're either getting better or you're getting worse. So if we're bringing in guys to just keep the standard, then we're just getting worse. So that's how I feel about the draft.
Before you go, Brother Bob, I know you may have a couple of guys you like, but so since the Tanner McLaurin pick, we got Ryan Watts, cornerback from Texas to the Steelers, Tyler Davis out of Clemson, defensive tackle to the Rams, Georgia defensive tackle Zion Logue to the Falcons, Patrick McMorris, safety out of Cal to the Dolphins, and then Christian Boyd, the guy that David just talked about, my bad, from Northern Iowa defensive tackle to the Saints with the Panthers on the clock. Any prospects you like at this point, brother?
Boyd. I love Boyd. He just got swooped, as you said. I think it'd be nice for us to address the trenches, especially DT. I don't really know if we have the future there in our defensive tackle or the lines in general, but I do think also tight end. I thought we would address tight end considering how bad Latu shaked out last year. We didn't see much of Graham Willis. So although he did get on the field, he even played in the Super Bowl. But, I think it would have been nice to see us go after tight end, and Bell's the only one left. And he blocks, but he's just not necessarily the best prospect. But at this point, I think I have to agree with the other three. I think he was the best one left.
So you guys are going with a Boyd as the best player left on the board?
Bell. Yeah. Boyd was already snagged.
So Jaheim Bell?
Yeah.
You guys are, okay.
I think. But again, I believe David touched on this earlier, that Jaheim Bell is an H-back. He's not really a tight end.
No.
So,
yeah,
that's something to note.
And I like what Coach said, though, too, and I might have I hear what you're saying. See, and that's what I love. You hear, I don't even know what I agree or disagree with completely, because I don't think you have to disagree or agree. It just, listen to what you said, I think is a really good lens of how you can look at how you want to see growth in a team. I think that a lot of guys they drafted are guys that are going to compete. I do think that there are going to be some guys that are going to show once they get to camp that, hey, we do got to account for this guy. We just don't necessarily know who that is yet. Okay. But I do think that these guys I think a lot of these guys can ball, right? I will say, if Mahogany were to be a pick, for instance, I don't think you worry about redundancy. I don't think I think you said that you get these guys in the camp and you see what's happened. You draft the best player. There's not a position that's off limits at all at this point to me. Maybe receiver, I guess, because my God, like how many can you bring in? but that's probably the one that's off limits, right? Because who else? How many people can you put on this team? Unless you got that Debo's going, unless Juwan Jennings could be traded, unless Danny Gray and Ronnie Bell are like out the door, like maybe then. But boy, that's a lot of rookies. So I would say, yeah, I think Mahogany should absolutely be in the conversation, and I think Bo Limmer at center should be in the conversation.
So for me, my top guys on the board is actually a defensive tackle and a center. I got Leonard Taylor out of Miami. I don't know how he's still on the board. I think he's the athleticism he brings, and he had a down year last year. But when you watch his tape, I know a lot of people. I've had a conversation with someone on the timeline, and we started DMing back and forth. He was trying to tell me, "Oh, I usually only watch the players last year. That's the most refined product." No, I watch every year I possibly can, because sometimes you have a player get an injury that he may not be battling and no one knows about. Everything. Like there's so many different things, new coaching scheme, everything. Leonard
And
Taylor
you
had a
want to
down
see how
year.
he works. You want to see like, man, oh, he lost weight this year. He got stronger this year. You want to see it all. That matters. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Marco.
So you're good. So for me, it's Leonard Taylor who's on the board, who I don't understand how he's still on the board. Then it's Bo Limmer. I think Bo Limmer is the day one starter for the 49ers at center. I don't think Brendel beats him out. And my biggest thing is bring dudes in to compete with this interior offensive line. If you don't like your guard, your center, your tackle, bring them in to compete. If they lose out, guess what? They're a rookie. It's fine. You don't have for me, that's the biggest issue. Like, for example, look at what other teams have done. They brought in players at certain positions, even though they have great players at that position to compete. And I think that's the biggest issue with the 49ers is at times when they have players who are really good, they're afraid to bring players in to compete because they don't want to make a weird environment for their locker room. And for me, that's just a chance. I truly think the 49ers have an issue with favoritism when it comes to players. I don't like that a player could be locked into a spot at times. So for me, that's just something interesting. I did have Sunil also did ask, do you guys think Kittle's going to be extended now that we haven't gone tight end? Or do you think, I don't think he should be extended.
Yeah, I don't think he should be extended either.
I don't think
I think we need to get better at that position. I mean, for the future. Go ahead, Coach.
I mean, I don't think so, but he might be. But I agree 100% with where Marco's coming from a standpoint of go bring in Bo Limmer. Like, this is my deal. And this is why I kind of like when I strike at the team, like I go for body blows. Like I don't play around. Like I really go for the diaphragm. And the reason why is because I see what you're doing. Like I see you. You think you slick. And the reason why I feel that way is that it's not only do they lock in positions, right? Where you're like, why would you make this guy feel so confident that he can't be challenged at this position? But the reason why is because it's for the caveat. The way that the building is set up is that not only are you in a position that that you fought tooth and nail to be in, but you know you're not good enough to be here. So you're always thankful that you're in this position. And when you're always thankful that you're in this position, we can ask the most out of you because you're grateful that you're just here. And not only that, we can reflect that by paying you pennies, by paying you a certain amount. So there is something to be said about drafting a guy who comes in and completely just blows your starter out of the water. All right. Where, yeah, you could say I drafted you in the 5th round. You could say I drafted you in the 6th round. But it's like, dude, I came in here and whooped your 3-time starter's ass. When it's time for me to get paid, you better come in here and pay like you weigh. They don't have time for those type of egos on a team like this. They have their top 10 players to 13 players that they're willing to give real money to, who they can trust. Not only who they can trust, but the reason why these guys make this money is because they know they can go on the back end and maneuver it when they need to build out the rest of the team. So it's not the fact that we're going to give you this money because you deserve this money, but there's a responsibility with being at this side of the cap on this team. If you make this type of money with the cap, then not only do you have to be one of what you do, but you got to be malleable when we come back to you and say, hey, man, we need you to take an extension. Here, take this lump sum of money. We're trying to move some things around, and we don't need any back talk out of you. Just do it. So there's a responsibility with that, and that's kind of one of the reasons why they're kind of afraid to pay BA, because I don't think that he will play ball. Like once he got his money, I think he would really treat them like, hey, this is a business. I got paid. You paid me, but it's your job to make the cap happen, Parag. So I don't see them doing things like getting a Bo Limmer late because, like you said, Marco, we know Bo Limmer is our starting center now. Like the day they draft him, he's better than Jake Brendel, right? But Jake Brendel was the 13th highest paid player on this team. They're not going to do that to him, right? He's vested. He's one of the guys, and that's why it sucks.
I don't know. I mean, Puny could compete with them.
I don't know.
Puny, in my opinion, I think Puny comes in, competes at right guard day one. Best player. But this is what I would do. Personally, you have 2 guards, right? You have Puny and Feliciano, let them battle it out at guard. Finally put Spencer Burford at tackle where he fucking belongs, man. He's not a guard. I said it from day one when I saw him. When I watched his film, he is not a damn guard. You're playing him out of position. Same thing with Jalen Moore. He's not a tackle. You're playing him out of position. So you're playing a player out of position. You're expecting him to be good and have him do stuff that he's not good at. He is not a guard. You put him at tackle, he may beat out Cole McKivitz for that starting right tackle job. You put him there where he's naturally suited for. He has the natural kick step. He has the natural ability to go up against edge rushers. He's not a guy who can get nimble and shadow you here and here. He's a guy who I want to kick out and I want to get that my back foot and I want to plant and use my strength. I don't like what the Niners have done. Go with Burford at least. Let Puny and Feliciano battle it out at right guard. Let Burford and McKivitz battle it out at right tackle. And then at center, you have Bo Limmer, who truthfully is a really good player. I don't know why he's fallen. In my opinion, I think it's because of the Senior Bowl. I think teams saw how he got bullied by Tavondre Sweat, who has like 400 pounds on him.
Dude, he's like 380 pounds.
So that's where I think why he fell. Like, people saw that. But, man, I just think the Niners, truthfully, they need to bring in some more dudes who are, like you're saying, like willing to come in and compete and win a job.
Yeah, like Kyle Juszczyk should have lost his job by now. Like, come on, man. He should have lost his job by now. They should be pushing George Kittle. They could get somebody in here to really push George Kittle by now. They finally got in Pearsall to push Debo, but they could have been pushing Debo before by now. Like, there's guys that could be pushed on this team where if they really just wanted to draft like high ceiling guys, they could find it. Like, they tried doing it when we didn't have a first round. They tried going high ceiling because we were picking so low. So we took a swing on Drake Jackson, right? But if you really think about it, when the rubber meets the road, like we could really, like, because we're paying Trent Williams, I don't think that it's advantageous for them to bring a guy in the building who could really push to be like an all-time right tackle and then switch over to the left side. Like, I don't think they want that right now because fiscally it just doesn't work for them. Like,
I just want to. Oh, sorry. I was going to say a kicker was drafted, and that takes a kicker off the board. The 49ers
is it Josh O'Carty?
They get Will Reichard from Alabama.
It's not Josh O'Carty, so we're good. We're going to get our kicker.
Okay.
Josh O'Carty is the best place kicker in this draft out of Stanford. Hands down, easily. Like, watching him warm up at Stanford up close, dude, he was nailing kicks 65, 70 out. Like, easy.
You're
like,
dead serious. You're dead serious.
Yeah, dead ass.
I thought you were being sarcastic.
No, I'm being dead serious. When I talk prospect, I'm never joking about a prospect. But for me, so I'm talking about Spencer Burford. Cube said left and right is not the same side. He said never will be. It's awkward to switch sides. Hold on. So
no,
Cube,
this is
so
2024.
Hold on. It is hard to do so. So why didn't they just keep him on the left side? Why they put him at right guard? So either way, they're playing him out of position according to you. So even if he's not supposed to be a right tackle, they're playing him out on the right side at right guard. So imagine going from left tackle to right guard.
Yeah.
So like it's easier to go from left tackle to right tackle versus going to left tackle to right guard. So so that's what I was like. I get what you're saying. Like, you might be trying to say like that's still the problem. There it is. That's still the problem that they moved him from the left side to that. Okay, I get what you're saying. My bad. So you're agreeing with me. Brother Bob's laughing.
Walk on one.
Nah, I'm just like, it just, for me, man, there goes Grable to the Bills.
Real talk though, Josh Carty, I want the chaos. He might be another Cowboy boy too. I'm gonna lose a Cowboy boy. Josh Carty, I would love to see a 7th round pick on Josh Carty come in and compete with Jake Moody. Yeah, I would. Yeah, I actually would for the chaos. I absolutely would. What I would honestly love,
he would win the job, and that would be,
I know that's why I want it. And then what I love
my bad, Cubes. My bad, brother. I don't like when players are played out of position. Like same thing with, and it was more so like frustration with the Niners, not necessarily you. I don't really like when players are played out of position because then when they don't pan out, fans are pointing at the player. Like, for example, we look at Jalen Moore. He's not a tackle. He never has been a tackle.
Exactly.
Like, so that's where I'm like, oh, it's Cubs. My bad. I'm not a Cubs fan. It's Giants all around here. You know what I'm saying? But when you play a player out of position and the fan base or fans are looking at that player and blaming that player for being a bad pick, that's the team's fault, not the player's fault. But now I'm very curious. So I think we're like 10 picks away. Let me count.
10.
We're 10 picks away, right?
Jawar Jordan just went to the Texans. Yeah.
Is there anything? Oh, I see. Hey, so he's calling me out. He said I have a Sox hat. I do have a Sox hat. Damn, that's cold.
But let me say this though, Marco, if you give me a second here.
Go ahead.
Something Coach said really rang home for me. And it's something that Bill Walsh used to always talk about, right? His book about replacing players, a year or two too early and a year or so too late. And, the question was about Kittle, who I love Kittle, okay? Met the guy on the field one day, got his autographed jersey, but he's 30. He's going to be 31 this season. So I would like to see someone push him at that position, or at least not necessarily push him, but someone he can bring up under his wing, let him know how to play tight end and the 49ers team in this system, Kyle's system. So, and I would love to have seen that for left tackle, but no, I don't want to see us re-sign Kittle because looking at his stats, looking at his numbers, we've got him signed through 2025. Okay, so this year, his cap hit's going to be 12 million or so. Next year's cap year hit would be 22 million. Maybe I don't want to see that get tinkered too much, maybe restructure it, but in the sense of not keeping him, extending him. But 2025, we should be looking to move on from Kittle and no later than 2026, because this is what I don't want us to see happen. While we're in this middle of a Super Bowl run, Super Bowl window, if you will, look at what the Chiefs are doing. They're constantly in the Super Bowl window, and not just because of Mahomes and Reed, but because they're retooling constantly, moving up in the draft to get marquee players. I want to see us do that.
And I agree with wanting to go get those marquee players, right? Like when you're mentioning that, like how do teams get better? By being aggressive, being bold, being that team that does something that is out of the ordinary. You don't gotta just go by the lines and walk the line. Sometimes it's better to be the team that's different. And I think what the Niners have done in the past was being the team that's different in terms of in the late rounds, going with the players that they felt were underutilized. For example, Kittle, Warner, like those kind of guys, right? And I think that's what they did in the first couple of rounds, which was a mistake. Like I truly think that's a mistake, but I don't think it's a bad draft class. I just think it's more so the upside of this draft class isn't going to be as high, so I'm not too crazy over that in terms of I know what this draft class is bringing us. Coach,
But
you've been really quiet. Like you're thinking about something someone has said. Like you're giving that nod really quietly.
No.
Like you have something on your chest.
No. What I'm just listening to you guys and just trying to understand like the best like approach for just where we are for the team. Are we? I don't want to be negative, man. I really don't. But we know what a championship team looks like, right? And I gotta see. I'm using patience right now to figure out how the team shapes out, right?
Okay.
And right now, I'm not happy with our trenches, particularly on the defensive side of the ball. Now, one thing that I will say about our offensive line is that for better or for worse, for all of the issues, for all of the ugly betties that we had, the bad games, individually, Trent's getting older, Aaron Banks was, pieced together throughout the season, injury-wise, mediocre play from Aaron Banks and Feliciano. They made it to the Super Bowl, right? So you got to face that. That offensive line made it to the show, all right? And so as far as the offensive line is concerned, I'm giving them grace for another year to see what they look like coming in retooled, all right? And let's see. They got one guy coming in. We're not done with the draft. They could get another guy, but we'll see what the competition looks like on that side. But it's that D-line that I'm worried about. The interior defensive line, be able to stop the run. at the best version of what we were last year, we could not stop the run. Teams ran on us at will, and particularly in serious games, we got ran on. Now, I'll say this, Eric Armstead and Javon Kinlaw weren't the best interior defenders for us, but what they lacked in skill and talent, they made up for in presence. And right now, just physically, I just feel like we're just a smaller team, right? If I'm looking at the roster for our defensive line, rolling out the bus, we don't look that impressive. And all I'm saying is that I would just like to see what we're going to do in terms of just raw talent added to the defensive line, because I feel like our defense is a different beast without certain contributors, and we need to find somebody who's going to bring the funk, because Dre Greenlaw ain't going to be here for a while. And I don't think that we understand like what our defense looks like without that man. It's different. So who is going to be the arbiter, like who's going to really bring the noise when it comes time to our defense? That's what I'm a little worried about, because when we lost games, right? Think about the 3-game losing streak. Offense averaged 17 points, right? A game, but nobody cared. It was all about Coach Wilkes making 0 blitz call blunders against Minnesota, the team getting ran through with 19 completions in a row by Joe Burrow, and the defense not being able to stop the run against Kareem Hunt and Cleveland. That was the story. The story was our defense, right? Even in the Super Bowl, we talk about that the defense wasn't ready for the overtime rules, and how did we not understand that Patrick Mahomes was going to run the last play, the predictable play? And we really started talking about the defensive blunders, but man, we played that game without Dre Greenlaw. We played that entire game without Dre Greenlaw, and we held them to 22 points regulation. That's a hell of a job. So what tells me, what was it, 22 points regulation?
No, 19.
19.
19, yeah, 19 points regulation. Even better, right? So what that tells me is that, yeah, we can sit here and talk about what Purcell's going to do, and Debo needs to be gone, and how are we going to be able to ingratiate Cowing and all of the new ways our offense is going to go. But we're a defensively led team. When we lose, we look at the defense. What did the defense do? That's what we care about.
But the defense did not. I mean, we talked about last year early on before the season started that the offense was going to be like, I think what this draft is showing is that they want to be, and maybe this is where Marco had talked about, is this, are they going to go into an offense that says we are going to be passing the ball more, right? Are we going to be oh my goodness. And this, I think this is going to be a team that continues to lean on its offense more, because I don't think they've done enough to address the run defense. And I also want to push back. There's a little bit about like the idea that we used to draft high ceiling guys. I look at the 2022 draft. How'd that work out? Like I look back and I'm seeing Drake Jackson. Like at the time, you're like, okay, high upside. What's he done? Nothing. We TDP. I don't even know what the upside. I mean, it was supposed to be upside.
He was not
there.
a high upside. No,
Okay.
TDP
I'm pushing.
He got drafted off one game.
So I'm pushing back on this idea, that narrative that all of a sudden there's this big difference that, like, I like Adam Peters, but I'm going back to these drafts. Like, is it really that different? Like Danny Gray, high upside, Spencer Burford.
Lions draft Christian Mahogany.
Yeah. Samuel Womack, Nick Sakel, Kalia Davis, Tariq Castro Fields, Brock Purdy. I mean, if not for lucking into that at the end, that draft is absolutely the worst of the entire year. And so my question is, like, I don't know if you can always like be binary about whether it's high floor, high ceiling. And I would rather not like just like exclusively go one or the other. But I think that I would say this, my instincts coming out of this draft class right now was much better feeling than I had about the 2022 draft class.
Oh, same.
And so that I'm not shilling. I'm not going to go. I'm not going to name any names, but I'm not going to go out there and just like, two-step for the Niners or anything like that. But I'm just saying that this is, I see within the context of what they're trying to do. Now, what I'd like to do, what Coach said, is I want to see us maybe take some of the veterans that seem to be untouchable, right? Debo, Juszczyk, and Kittle. All people that I think that they can start to look to move on from. But Brother Bobby brought up the same thing, I think. And I just don't know if they're going to be able to do that. Last year, who'd they draft? Cam Latu. You talk about high upside.
Hold on, I'm trying to address this real quick. It was not double OT in the Super Bowl. It was single OT in the Super Bowl. It was not double OT.
Yeah.
But
anyway,
the Niners had the opportunity to close the game multiple times in regulation.
Yeah. So I don't. Josh Carty goes to the Rams. Mahogany to the Lions. Kamal had the just. I just want to see like where.
Hey man, so it's funny. So I was actually having a conversation with my coworkers about this, and people who are from the central, like where tornadoes are from, y'all just be going out there and watching it like it's a cool event or something. Like one of my coworkers, I swear, like one of my coworkers, she was like, oh, we had a tornado, but no one got worried. They're like, oh yeah, my husband was out there just watching it, like, oh, look at the tornado coming by. Bro, us in California, we get rain and we're like, oh snap, we're getting rained on. Like that's crazy.
Gotta go in the house.
That's crazy.
Oh, y'all don't get rained on out there?
We do, but not when it's been dumping right now in April, and we don't normally get rain in April.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, man. It normally doesn't rain that much. This year has been a little bit of an anomaly, but yeah, it normally doesn't rain that much, bro. And I tell you, it is funny. Remember when we had that we did have like that hurricane out here, but it really wasn't a hurricane. It ended up being a little mini quake. Remember that, Marco?
Yep.
Out here on my side, I'm in Maryland. Like we get all 4 seasons, but like on steroids. So like when it's springtime, April, it rains like every day. It's basically rained damn near every day this month. Like
that's crazy.
Yeah.
Y'all be getting those crazy monsoons.
Jesse just sent a text about Mahogany and Wingo really did probably redeem their drafts. I actually thought those picks I had high grades on. And then Cam Little, the Jaguars just drafted a kicker. That's 3 kickers in the 6th round. The Niners, they were ahead of the game. They said, we can go 3 rounds ahead of you. But a high upside kicker.
We're 4 picks out.
Are any of you guys shocked that Brendan Rice hasn't gone picked yet? Because if he's there bro, you said earlier you want the bloodline. They run thick in the 49ers, what they said.
He didn't know Oos.
No, the Niners said they like bloodline players, bro. They said we want bloodline players. We believe in them. Yeah, they didn't take any.
I can imagine John talking about it right now. When we looked at Brendan, I looked at Kyle, and Kyle was eating hummus with carrots, and I said to Kyle, his highlight tape looks amazing, and I'm not saying this just because it's Jerry's kid. I'm telling you, you got to believe me. He's a guy that we really wanted him in here, and he's one of our gold helmet guys. He really represents the 49ers standard, and we're just happy to have him. What do you think, Kyle? I can hear about it already.
I was excited to speak to Jerry. Jerry said he runs great routes like me. Get the hell out of here, Kyle.
No, what's great though is that, and somebody called it. I think it was this guy named Matt Miller, not the Matt Miller that's on ESPN, but he tweeted this. It's true. These press conferences the last couple of nights, like Kyle looks like shit. Like Kyle looks like he's been hit by a train, and John Lynch is like the PR baby kissing, aw shucks, and Kyle's sitting there looking like he hasn't slept, and. I know behind the scenes they're not always simpatico, but like, boy, Kyle looked like he didn't look like he had any life. He didn't look like he had any energy. And I don't know what's going on, but people say, well, you're reading too much. And no, somebody just asked a question. It legit, like John's doing his typical effusive, like nothing burger comments that mean, just like lipstick on a pig crap. And Kyle was just sitting there, like not even glaring, but just stoically monotone and indifferent.
Why Kyle does look like this though?
What?
Because Kyle tries to truthfully he tries to get all of the scouting he can done after the season, like, and he tries to be a scout. It's like, you're a head coach, bro. Let your scouts and let your team do the scouting for you. Let them give you their top players where you could go watch. Like, instead he wants to be a scout himself, and he goes and watches so much film. That dude don't sleep. He truthfully don't sleep. Like, he tries to scout.
I respect
David,
the grind.
Are you okay? Because everyone says you've been on. Have you slept?
Yeah.
You like Kyle too. Look at you.
Are you saying that because I'm white?
I don't know.
Mike, are you
Oh,
calling
wow.
me? Are you calling me a Cabo boy?
You're a cowboy. You're a cowboy boy, bro.
I'll tell you what. I got to shave to become a Cabo. Kittle has brought back the long hair and the chin strap, but Kittle's facial hair is garbage. I mean, he seriously looks like a 13-year-old. But like the idea that, I mean, I don't have like a Venom tattoo because I'm not like a, I'm not cool like George. I don't want to be a wrestler.
It was Grant who asked if they had a first round grade on Pearsall, right?
It was a legitimate question, and Grant said, and this is the thing that pissed me off that night. No, John immediately laughed demonstrably, demonstrably in his face, like this super over the top, like cut him off. And Kyle's just sitting there doing his typical, and all he'd said is that, hey, was he one of your 25? Because they said they had 25 first round grades.
22.
22. He said, well, do you have one of those 22? And he just immediately cut him off. He's like, oh yeah, that's we really like him. I mean, I tell you, what we got to tell you guys? And it's like, well, you don't
tell
have
us the truth.
Or you could just say, we don't usually like to show what our draft table is or things like that. Fine. Just rest assured we really like it. That's a good question. We don't really like to divulge what our grades are. Fine.
And that's what's weird. What's weird about that type of stuff is that it's like they choose to lie rather than have an awkward truth. Like we know there's nothing wrong with you saying, well, obviously we're not going to divulge that to you guys, but we were really high on this pick.
Well, one of the what team was it? The general manager, I think it might have been Arizona. They asked, hey, how many first rounders do you guys have? XYZ. And the general manager went on like this long talk about how prospects and how they evaluate, and doesn't give any numbers, anything. And he's like, just like a stupid long answer, doesn't even answer the question. And then head coach pew guy, the guy that liked to talk about fireworks, said, he was like, you really thought you were gonna get an answer with that question, huh? You weren't getting one. Like, it's to be honest, I'd rather them do that than say, well, we have 22 first rounders, 75 are draftable guys.
Yeah, it's like you're insulting my intelligence, bro. Just tell me I don't want to tell you.
Guys,
rather than do all of that.
I can't unsee this now. Joey Swole, that dude that always makes those videos. He's trying to build people up or like critique.
Yeah, he does look like Ricky Pearsall.
I mean, you see my phone, but like, there's oh my god, is Joey Swole?
You cannot
Ricky
record
Pearsall's
while you're
dad?
in the gym.
Yeah, like, and he's like, you could land an airplane on his forehead, but like the idea
I think Ertel, I think it was more so just was he one of your top guys? It doesn't matter what grade they had on him. Obviously, the consensus is they took him earlier than he was projected to get drafted, but it was more so, did you have a first round grade on him? Because if you did, that's great. You got a guy in the first round who you wanted.
If you did it confirms that it was a reach.
And I think they would have been better off saying, yeah, we had a first round grade on him.
Yeah, just say it. Yeah.
I would have just, hell yeah, we had a first round grade on him. We had him, you know what, matter of fact, we had him in the top 20. Like, you look great doing it.
Well, so guys, we got the Rams pick is in. I don't know if it's been revealed yet, but then there's one more pick. The Bengals.
The Niners are on the clock.
Oh, who did the Rams and the Bengals pick? Or they haven't announced it yet?
Rams took Jordan Whittington out of Texas. Okay. The Bengals selection I have not seen, but the Niners are on the clock about 2 minutes ago. From what I
Is this our last pick?
Second to last.
But I'll probably be signing off about a little bit after this, when we can talk about it. But
you're good. You're good.
I mean, what do you guys think? What do you guys think in the? I mean, with this 2 picks to go here, who do you think this is? I would say a couple of guys I didn't mention before. Dallin Holker, tight end out of Colorado State. He's not the biggest guy, but he's a move tight end. He's good agility metrics. I can see that being something that could be possibly an option. Jaheim Bell. I really hope Bo Lemmer. But maybe there's somewhere else in there. Leonard Taylor, like you said, somewhere, or like I said, Michael Pratt. I'm not going to be surprised if it's a quarterback here.
I would love to see us take a flyer on a project defensive tackle. I think he's still there from Florida State, Fabian Lovett. I mean, he's 3'16". I think he'll be he's not ready right now, but to replace some of the guys that we have, I would like to see him snagged here in the 6th round. Or I do think Bell, we could slot him an H-back, but we do need someone who can catch the ball and can provide some blocks. And think this guy would be necessary in Kyle's system. But
I
give
like
me your
that.
guys' thoughts real quick on Fabian Lovett.
I honestly haven't looked as much into him, so I mean I'd love to hear what you like about him. To be quite honest.
Sure, no, all good. So I mean, he hasn't been consistent, but he has the NFL body. He has thickness, he has length. He's
yes,
played.
he does.
He's been injured. He did have some a leg issue. Oh,
Pause.
it isn't that right?
No Diddy over here, guys. No Diddy over here.
Oh, Lord help me.
No, but for Fabian Levitt, because I have watched Fabian Levitt a little bit. A captain on his team, I believe, at Florida State. He has the size and anchor to take on double teams. He's going to be your run defender. I don't think he has much upside as a pass rusher, but he has the ability to push the pocket.
Bo Limmer.
Now, the Niners have Bo Limmer? Let's go.
No, Bo Limmer went to the Rams.
Oh,
bro, you serious right
David?
Now,
I just said
you had me give a let's go.
No, I said I was frustrated because I was like, oh, Bo Limmer, because it was Bo Limmer got drafted by the Rams.
Oh man, you see how happy I got for Bo Limmer right now.
Rams, bro.
Wait a minute. They announced. I think they announced the wrong team. It might be the Niners.
Hold on.
It might be the Niners because they said Cedric Johnson unless there was a trade. What the hell,
bro? You guys see how happy everyone in the chat. Y'all see how happy I got for
Hold
Bo
up.
Limmer?
It said Bengals drafted Cedric Johnson, and then it said Bo Limmer to the Rams. Did the Rams trade up to go get?
No,
Bo Limmer?
the Rams selected Jordan Whittington.
We're at 1 o'clock now.
Just wait.
It's us. I think it's us.
Dude,
I think Jordan Schultz
traded that it said Bo Limmer to the Rams.
We took Jared Kingston.
Jarrett Kingston, guard from USC.
Okay, who's this guy?
I mean,
then where did Bo Limmer go?
Nowhere. Unless the Cowboys have already picked somebody and they're saying it's a way ahead, and Bo Limmer went a couple picks later after the Cowboys picked. But then nobody reported any of these other picks.
How do you spell his last name?
Kingston. S-T-O-N. King S-T-O-N.
But why are they announcing Rams before
I
they're
was
announcing
so excited.
Did
y'all see how excited I got for Bo Limmer?
I was hype.
I was like, we just got a starting center.
I announced what Jordan Schultz said to the Rams, and I don't understand why he's announcing that and not other teams.
That's weird.
Because like the Rams had already selected. And so he skipped the Cowboys, he skipped the 49ers. Nobody's reported it other than the app.
The Niners reported that they drafted Jarrett Kingston.
Yep.
It's got a 1-7.
You heard it here first. Breaking news. I don't know about this pick. I mean, he's obviously a development. I had him in my list. I go through Gruber's list. I had him as an undrafted free agent.
So did I.
But
he's an undrafted free agent on the list that I'm just looking at now too.
And he had some injury issues. Go ahead, my brother.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
No, he has some injury issues. I think the big thing is I think he lacks the strength to hold up as a run defender. And I don't think he and I don't think he has.
Bo Limmer did go to the Rams.
That's what I'm saying. They skipped it. He didn't report.
What he did was 217 was that pick. So he was ahead of that pick.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
He was ahead. Yeah, so he was ahead of the Niners announcing.
And the Cowboys, who drafted Ryan Flournoy out of SEMO. I
was so excited, man.
Well, yeah, there you see it. So I honestly don't know anything about Jarrett Kingston. I'm not going to lie.
I watched him only because I was watching the running back who went to, I forgot where he went. Went early though, like the third round. He's an undrafted free agent. They literally just got him because they think he may be a priority. Truthfully, practice squad guy. That's what they just got right now in the 6th round. When they had Bo Limmer, they had Leonard Taylor on the board. They had other guys who are much better. Like immediately following the Niners going guard,
you said
the Rams going Bo
You
Limmer.
wanted high upside, right? So they draft a guy with a high athletic profile upside. He's at all guys at the combine, his athletic metrics were 3rd. So they're going for a guy that they think that has better movement skills or has the potential to have that, right? I'm not, like I said, I'm not shilling. I can just try to understand where they're coming from. And
You shilling?
no, man, you guys were saying, oh, Adam Peters is here, and it's like a high ups. I don't even buy that, by the way. That doesn't even.
So hold on. So based off of this is the athleticism score is at 9 for based off of like what the NFL app has. It's 92 for him.
Mm-hmm.
His athleticism score, Bo Limmer's is 89. Now, when you look at the total score, right? They gave Jarrett Kingston a 71, a Bo Limmer a 76. He was a fourth ranked center versus you got the 11th ranked guard.
No, I would have drafted Bo Limmer. Yeah.
So that's where I'm like, so when I watch Kingston, he does lack strength. His weakness is he doesn't have
32
natural power.
32 bench reps.
And that's solid for an offensive lineman.
Hell yeah, that's
shorter
solid.
arms.
He's short arms, but still 32 reps at 306. Like
he's a guard.
No, he's a guard. He may be, and they may convert him to a center.
Yeah,
they might.
They may.
You know what? I'm gonna tell you one thing right now. I'm watching him right now on film, and his reach blocking is unworldly. Like I'm seeing.
No, he's a good reach blocker.
He's got his 10-yard is. I mean, I'm just saying. Like honestly,
his best ability is in zone, and for the offense that he was in, unfortunately, they run a RPO heavy offense at USC, and it didn't fit his style of play. No. So it may be something where the Niners like, hey, you know what? We think he's gonna be a better center in the NFL, and I think that's where he'll end up playing. And Purdy will be your right guard.
He's a mauler.
Future.
Well, so here's the thing, though. Late 6. I'm just saying. I don't have a big opinion on this player, but I said, what do we say? 6 and 7. You better go high athletic upside traits, and it does appear that this guy has that. And we talked about addressing the trenches. So if you're going to do that, don't just go with a household name. Go with somebody who has a higher ceiling.
I get it. No, I get it. No. When this is Carl, I think Carl has given us a great scouting report on him. He goes, great feet and agility, good pulling guard, hits the run game, and can drive with strength. Doesn't always hold up against strong defenders. Can get thrown back in pass protection. That's the biggest issue is pass protection. I watched him was pass protection. Good run defender. And I think that's what Kyle prefers. Kyle prefers a run defending offensive lineman over pass protecting, and he's proven that year in, year out, right? With the guys he's drafted. For me, Bo Limmer locks up your center and locks up a pass protector. Like that for me was the issue. Like, and it's interesting because every pick I've had someone where I would have gone with a similar position that I get to compare for the next couple of years too. And that's what I'm excited about because I'm a draft guy. I love the draft. I love doing the draft. And I also like watching the Niners guys and stuff like that. So, Brother Bob, you're pretty quiet over there. What are your thoughts?
And I love seeing us address needs. I probably would have went with Limmer. I mean, I had him mock draft before, and I showed it to Jesse. But I do like the fact that we're getting someone who could possibly, next couple of years, work up into maybe starting lineup. He's a project. I think it's kind of he needs to hit the weight room as far as, I know what his bench press is, but he's got to get leverage so he doesn't get pushed back. Pass blocking is important. My question is, though, do you see him at center or guard?
I'm gonna go center.
I think he would be more of a center. Yeah, I think he'd be more of a center if he pans out. And I think Purdy would probably be a right guard, but he could also be center too. But Cubs. No, I don't want to talk about my mocks.
He said it's recorded. We got that on record, man. And I think Coach is actually watching film already on Jarrett Kingston. Looks like that's what he's doing. For me, the more of the issue was pass protection than anything. When you watch him, it was the shorter arms allowed him to get long armed against pass rushers, and it's more so you can have long arms if you know how to use them. Yes, Ahmed 50 Limmer was right there, just where I wanted him, just where we could get him. So for me, it's you could have short arms and be able to battle your own and handle your own if you know how to use your length. Like you don't have to necessarily have 33-inch arms, 34-inch arms, or whatever. It's when he doesn't time his strikes on time and stuff like that. That's where I had an issue with him when I was watching him because I was trying to watch. I want to say it was Marshawn Lloyd, I believe, the running back at USC that I was watching. as well as Caleb Williams and all those guys. And when I was watching him, like trying to watch the offensive lines, I always try to see if it's just someone stand out. He stood out more negatively in the pass protection than anything as a run defender. He's gonna create open lanes in the outside zone, and I think that could be what the 49ers are looking for. Can they get a center who could be that outside zone guy? I personally thought West Puny was going to be more of a center for the Niners. They obviously see him as a guard, so he's probably your right guard or left guard. And then they're probably going to have Kingston as their center guy that for the future. What was the whole purpose of drafting Nick Zakel a couple of years ago, who they thought was going to be a future center or a future guard? Like, are they telling us again year in year out when they draft players that they don't have faith in them to be a potential starting guy? That's where I'm curious, because you haven't addressed D-line, and there was a really good defensive lineman there. You had a center on the board. You had a solid move tight end in a way who could be a fullback in Jaheim Bell, and they decided to pass. That's interesting.
I think the problem is their investments on the O-line is pretty low. I mean, the only one that I can recall is my fellow Domer, McGlinchey, who is McGlinchey thrown over all the place. So, I mean, other than that, most of our offensive linemen during the Kyle Shanahan era has been low draft picks or unrestricted free agents, undrafted free agents. So, I mean, that's the thing about Kingston. Will he pan out? Will he be able to learn to leverage it and stay up on the blocks against NFL defensive tackles and linemen and edges? That's a good question. But for me, who do we take with this last pick? I do think we should go ahead and take a quarterback. I don't see the need of spending any money on Allen. I just don't see the need for him being on this roster. Why not make the third QB a rookie?
And you could make that third QB a rookie. And the thing is with a great backup quarterback, brother, it's not someone who could come in and win you games. Any team that gets to your second quarterback, you're likely going to be losing and you're not winning a Super Bowl at all. So what a great backup quarterback is a guy who is constantly watching film. So when he does come to meetings, or he does go to stuff like that, he's telling his starting quarterback what he sees. So he's doing the preparation for the starting quarterback. So the starting quarterback doesn't have to work as hard as watching, not necessarily as hard as watching the film, but when he comes off the field, that backup quarterback, every play is watching the tablet, in my opinion, should be doing. And as soon as he's off the field, hey, this is what I saw. So he doesn't have to go, because you never know how much time you truly have on a sideline. So you have that quarterback to be looking at things. Carl, this is a great Carl has a great question for you, Coach. Does this mean Burford's toast? This is a great question for all of us, actually. We wanted them to bring in guys who can compete. Does this mean he's gone?
It seems as though that's true. I was just looking at Jared. Again, we got a transfer. Guy played 4 years at Washington, transferred over to USC, 5th year senior, another old rookie. But he's polished. He knows what he's doing on the interior. He actually played some right tackle in a pinch. It's the same thing with Dominic. He played O-train basically up and down the offensive line for Kansas when they needed him. I feel like a lot of times these guys are just so thankful to be in these programs that they've never even touched before that they show instant worth because they have an entire career backing them. Does that mean that what they've shown that these senior years, where they're 5th year seniors and they're basically super seniors, does this show that the talent that they've shown in college going to be transferable? Is it going to translate? That's my biggest thing, right? We can see.
Coach, what are your thoughts on, because 5th year seniors, right? Don't normally players, and you were a scout, you were a guy who was a college coach and everything like that. Don't normally those guys who are dudes, don't they normally go to the league? But the guys who go back for that 5th year is normally because they don't got NFL ability.
They don't have enough. Exactly. 100%. And I'm glad that you brought that point up. Most guys that dude, football is hard, bro. And if you got an opportunity, even to sniff the league and make some money, you're gone. You're getting out of here. And I feel like if you're a 5th year senior and you've got NFL hopes and dreams and you're a late draft pick, I feel like it's the right it's the right problem that we have. You know, we're an older team who needs guys to come in, and we need patches. We need guys who are polished, who are going to be able to add on to what we already have. But I guess the operative question is are we necessarily getting better? You know, that's the question. So what happens when, we have a team that fills the holes that we have, but how do you compete against a team like the Lions where they have youth on their side and they get better? They got their holes filled, and not only do they have their holes filled, but those guys are charted to develop and actually like lift up the standard of the team. So that's my biggest thing with a guy like Jared Kingston. Like, he's going to come in, and again, he should be able to compete with John Feliciano. And I personally believe that he's a center. He's only 300 pounds. So he's a center in my eyes. So I think he's going to compete with Jake Brindle. But at the same time, you know, it's no love loss if he doesn't make it. He's a fifth-year senior. I mean, how much better can he get? So we'll see.
But even then, a fifth-year senior that doesn't make the team, you had a guy like a couple of dudes on the board. You had defensive tackles. You had a starting center possibly with Bo Limmer. I mean,
I'm with
the
you.
Rams right away went and got him. And they have a good interior offensive line. So when you're getting dudes like that, I'm going to be looking again. This is where I will write down, and I'll have this documented. Leonard Taylor, Bo Limmer will be guys I follow for the next couple of years, as well as Jared Kingston, because if one of those guys becomes a very good backup or a starter level player and Kingston is cut within the next 2 years, that just tells you like, hey, we lost the opportunity to up another position because you went a UD undrafted free agent in the 6th round when there was guys with higher upside, with better potential. So that's where I'm. David, you look frustrated in a way. You frustrated right now?
I was reading about Elijah Klein, was that guard out of UTEP that went to the Bucks the last pick of the 6th round, was also looked like a guy that I'd heard some smoke about as far as being a potential fit for the Niners. It's gonna be interesting. You're gonna, like you said, you take all those guys that are drafted next to each other and you compare them throughout their career. And I know you just said that. I know Matt Barrows just parrots things that he hears, but he's saying that could possibly play him at center too. So, and I know Marco, you just tweeted that out. So, it'd be interesting here. I mean, there's a lot of, I am glad that it wasn't, people are on Twitter talking about, oh, we got my hopes up for Brendan Rice. Like, receiver 3 is not going to happen.
I always said he was a 5th to 6th round draft pick. We're in the 7th round. He's still on the board because he does not run good routes. He has tight hips. He doesn't have the speed. Like, let's look at the prospect and let's stop looking at blast names and helmets that don't scout. Like, a lot of people, they scout the helmet for what a team's playing for. They scout a last name for who a guy is. Let's be real. Like, as much as I love Jerry Rice, that doesn't mean you gotta cape for his son. Like, let's be honest, his son is not that great of a receiver, and it sucks to say that because Jerry's Jerry. Like, Jerry's Jerry. He's a great route runner. He was a Hall of Famer. He was the greatest to ever play the game, in my opinion. So it's hard to see as a Jerry fan. Obviously, root for his family all the time, but man, I just thought it was hard to watch everyone say.
Yeah, but the point is he's not Jerry. So he has to be evaluated for who he is on the field. So
Jerry,
I get it. We can't play favorites. Right. Jerry was, exactly. Yeah. But man, I'm telling you, I would love to see, you guys may laugh, but I think this guy is a Purdy clone. And I would love to see him draft him. Yes, he's from Notre Dame, but I think Hartman's a Purdy clone. He doesn't have the biggest arm, but he knows typically where to go with the ball. I think it'd be good to see him in Shanahan's system. And it's the last pick of the draft. But man, for us, that is. But I'm looking at the Chiefs. When I look at the Chiefs, I'm just sitting here thinking, wow, they just keep getting better. They're doing what I would love to see our Niners do. Like, they're being aggressive. They were aggressive. And they went up and got players that they needed, players that we all like. Okay. Some people didn't like Xavier Worthy, but he has the crazy speed, ungodly speed. Kingsley, we all like Kingsley at tackle. They moved up. They traded with us one spot to get him. Then they swooped in and got Jared Wiley. I think he could be a good tight end candidate. for a year or two. He maybe contribute this year. Jaden Hicks. We all like Jaden Hicks as a safety. Then Hunter Narsvood. I mean, that's another guard / center waiting to happen. And then they took Camel Haddon. What'd you say?
I said that was your guy, Marco Norzad.
Yep. Well, they actually have a lot of my guys. Actually, they have Kingsley's one of my guys. Norzad's one of my guys. Jaden Hicks was one of my guys. Like a lot of their draft class, and that's why Jesse was messing around. He was like, man, he was like, look, they really are the draft class that looks at you like you were scouting for the freaking Chiefs.
I will say this though, you're right about the seventh round. The talent in this seventh round is really bad. I mean, it's not good. There are guys left you can draft, but it's getting a little bit. It's getting pretty, and it always does, right? But like I can see teams like the Buffalo Bills just selected a guy from England, Travis Clayton, an international player program like portal or whatever. I mean, so. Like, I think when you get to that point and you're already doing that at the beginning of the seventh round, like, there's not even, I mean, I'll be honest. Have you heard of that dude?
Nope.
Okay. So that's where we're at now. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, I think at this point, it's just,
and David, and that's why I said you had two players on the board who are better grades than anyone on the board, at least my grades, right? Yep. And you don't go them. And also, too, you also had Curtis Jacobs on the board. It's like you may also need a linebacker at some point. Like,
we haven't even touched linebacker. We just seem completely content at linebacker.
So that's my thing is like you had guys who were draftable at that sixth spot, but instead they went a guy who, in my opinion, was an undrafted free agent guy. Like you could have got him, you could have let him completely fall out of the draft, and no one would have taken him.
You know, though, like the Niners always do, you know, they've already been on the phone with saying, we will give you X. And this is what, you know, and there have been guys in the draft that have told them, I don't want to, they'd rather be a UDFA because they're guaranteed the signing bonus and they don't want to have to go in and compete with a team they don't want to be in. Like those are the conversations that start happening right now, right? Like it's like, I'd rather go UDFA than be drafted by somebody that I don't think is going to be a fit for me. And so, you know, the Niners are already lining those guys up. And I guarantee you by what time is it right now? 5 o'clock Central. So 3 o'clock Pacific, by about you're draftable today. You are draftable. Now that's
I would rather get drafted than undrafted. Actually, actually, you know what? If I'm a player at this point in the 6th and 7th rounds, don't draft me.
I don't want to get drafted.
Don't draft me.
Yeah. That's what David was saying. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
I go. So
that's what I'm saying.
So and let me not get drafted. Actually,
there are agents that have said this, and players and teams that say, "Look,
don't draft us.
Don't draft us because." And the Niners have said this before. They've been on the phone in the 6th round, whatever. They said, "Look, be patient. We're just telling you right now." And then those agents will go on all call and say, we do not want to be drafted. This is just don't even bother because and that happens more frequently than people know. You don't do that in the 1st and 2nd round, obviously, because it's a difference of a lot of money. But at this point, it's not.
Oh yeah, at this point, it's not at all. Like you're getting it to these players, it's pennies, right?
Right.
For me, what's interesting is I see a lot of people talking about Puny and now Jarrett Kingston did not give up a sack the entire 2023 season.
You saw that stat? I've ignored that. I've been seeing it on Twitter. It's pissing me off. It's pissing me off.
I could go get stats, man, to make any player look good.
Look good. Any player can look good if you get the right stats.
Brendan Rice. Brendan Rice is off the board to the Chargers.
There we go. Good job.
That's actually a really good spot for him.
And now Jerry's going to be happy because now
run first team.
Jerry's happy because it's close, and now it's
AFC.
And it's AFC, so it's not doesn't have the rooting, and now he can get down to his son. He can still support his team, and we know he was concerned about that. So that's good for Jerry, good for Brendan.
But that's a really good spot for Brendan Rice. And you go to a run first team, a team that could use you over the middle, good quarterback. who you
Big
could win
receivers are
contested
valued in
stuff.
run first teams.
Yeah, so
You know-
that's a good spot for him, man.
You know what's funny here is that Jake Hutchinson says Jarrett Kingston. He says got him on and he says, "Hey, I expect to be a guard or a center." And he said, "Quote Kingston said I don't have the length to play tackle." Now, when he was at Washington State, they did have him at tackle, right? And it's like USC was like, "No, like I shouldn't be out here." But you know, I'm not saying Wazoo is a washed up program, but like sometimes these college coaches put their best players in positions that they shouldn't be in, right? We see this all the time. And so
you could also USC played him at right tackle for a good 2020 during the 2023 year.
Right. So this idea that, and that's where I think what's encouraging about a kid like that is that he probably would have been best suited, and who knows how good he could have been if he would have been in the interior more often, right? So, that's silver lining, right? But I mean, hey, anytime, like I said, anytime late day 3 that you're getting athletic profile dudes, I'm listening.
But this is hold on. But
And he was actually
the thing though, is so you get high profile players right late in the draft, like right now Kingston. But in the first couple of rounds, you could get high level players who are much actually better football players. So what I mean by this is in the first, second, and third round, you're likely getting the best athletes go in those rounds. So, for example, in the first, they could have got one of the best athletes in this draft class because that's usually what happens. The better athletes go. When you're not that good of an athlete, you start falling down draft boards because you need to be a good athlete to play in the NFL. What the Niners just got was an athlete that is not as good of a football player. So now they need to mold this guy into becoming a football player. Do you have the developmental abilities to develop an interior guy? Do you have a good offensive line program? Have you been producing offensive linemen year in, year out? The answer is no, they have not. If we look at the guys they've drafted, they've had plans for a lot of the guys they've drafted. None of them have panned out because they're not developing them well. So the reality is just based off a percentage of the 49ers developing a guy that's later from an offensive line perspective is pretty low, to be honest with you. Like it is low for every team. But for the 49ers, I believe it's even lower looking at their draft history with later offensive linemen.
Oh, good points. And man, gotta say this. Jared, he was actually 6-year senior. He was redshirted his first year, only played one game. So yeah,
This is
great
what I'm
points,
talking about.
Marco.
These COVID babies. We're drafting all of these COVID babies, man. Where it's like these guys, like if both, like think about it this way: if Jarrett Kingston is getting drafted in the 6th round of the draft in his 6th year of college football, where would he have been drafted if he then naturally just came out of Washington State? He wouldn't have got drafted at all.
So I was talking to someone and I had asked him about like the 5th year, 6th year senior stuff. And he goes, man, I would hope a dude who's 23, 24 years old is dominating dudes who are 18 and 20. He's like, I would hope. He's like, I would like, so like you're dominating dudes. You should be. It's like me going to my cousin's high school game right now. I'm like, hey, let me strap up. Like literally, I'm being serious. That's essentially what it would be like. Me playing with younger dudes. I should have more natural strength in terms of you have more natural genetic strength. You've been training with college athletes for years.
You're a man.
So it's just I'm not gonna say like they shouldn't have drafted 6-year seniors or 6-year players, but we got to understand that 6-year players, 5th year seniors, you're gonna be a better player in college, better, and I'm gonna put quotes around better player because you're playing against dudes who are in their first 2 years, probably 3rd year, so you have had more time to develop as a player.
100%.
Man strength versus growing strength.
And that's a trend with a lot of players that we drafted this year, where if you look at what they've done in their careers, at what point in their career did they have the best results or progress? You know, it's not the end all to be all. It's not everything, but it is something to pay attention to. It is.
And there's a chance that he might not even make the roster, and it's fine because he's a 6th round draft pick. From round 6 and 7, it's all darts. Can I hit on something? Can I hit on a developmental player? So it's like that's why I'm not going to kill the Niners for this draft pick because you're literally throwing darts at the board from round 6 and 7. Same thing like they did with people want to say they found Brock Purdy or Brock Purdy was they scouted him. No, that was a dart on the board that Kyle and the team saw and was like, you know what? This guy has potential to be on our practice squad. We want a fourth quarterback in camp. And they hit on the dart. Like that's what you do in the last 2 rounds. So it is what it is.
Yeah, there was a question though, man. Someone just brought up in the chat: Melaniac, Pratt, or Slovis, as far as quarterback.
Michael
What are your
Pratt all day.
thoughts on those? All day.
Michael Pratt all
Why
day.
is that?
All day. Michael Pratt, I thought he should have been drafted a long time ago. He's the quarterback where when you watch Purdy, similar style, a guy who's going to get the ball out well, going to get the ball to in time, in rhythm, doesn't have the greatest arm strength, pretty athletic enough to be a guy who can move around. In my opinion, I thought he was a little more similar to people like to give Kirk credit for being Kirk, but when Kirk Cousins came out of Michigan State, he wasn't that good. Like he had a lot of flaws, right? And people like to say Kirk was like this great quarterback coming out of college. He wasn't. I think Michael Pratt is like Kirk Cousins coming out of college, a guy who has some traits that you like, who has an ability to become a starting quarterback in the NFL. And wherever he goes, I think he could push whoever's there on their roster. I thought the Denver Broncos should have taken Michael Pratt in the 3rd round over Bo Nix. Like that would have been a better pick than taking Bo Nix at pick 12. So I personally would go Michael Pratt over a guy like Kadon Slovis. Now Kadon Slovis has upside in terms of his freshman year and sophomore year. He looked really good. Outside of that, got injured, went to bad offenses, bad schemes, and went downhill from there. So a lot of things could go as well. So little things you could do right there.
Coach?
Yo.
On these quarterbacks, Pratt, Slovis, because I think I heard you also talk about Slovis once before.
Yeah, I like Pratt over Slovis. One thing I'll tell you right now is like the same thing that Marco said. I'll tell you is that when Kirk Cousins first came into the league, he was a shell of himself. He had no confidence whatsoever. He had processing, right? Kirk always had physical attributes coming out of college, especially one thing that Kirk was very mobile coming out of Michigan State. He's a sneaky mobile guy. I feel the same way about Pratt in some instances. The processing is there, which gives him a basis to grow from. And, I just feel as though that if we were going to go quarterback, Pratt would be somebody that can actually fall in line to what's being done in front of him. He would actually learn from Brock Purdy. So I would say with Pratt over Slovis.
And there's a chance that Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch see Michael Pratt in training camp and say he's after 3 practices, he's the best quarterback on our roster.
You know what? That's a joke, but it's sad that shit is true.
I'm not joking.
Yeah, that shit is true.
Like
he won't start though, so.
And I'm not saying he's better than Brock. I'm just saying like there's a chance they see him because he's gonna run the offense how they want. He's gonna make the right throws. He's gonna do what they want, just like Brock did. And there's a chance they see him and they're like, "Whoa, he might be our best quarterback." And that's just going based off of what Kyle and John have done in the past. So I'm not trying to be that snarky person that's making that joke. I'm being actually kind of serious.
Yeah, but here's the point. He still won't start. So what does it really matter? But here's the thing. You put a 3rd round or 2nd round grade on him, right? Why do you think Pratt has fallen? You think it's just because of the arm strength? Or why do you think? I mean, 6'2", 217. So why do you think he's fallen down to the 7th round or undrafted free agent?
Why is he falling?
Clear that he doesn't have the power if he's 6'2" and 217. That's a big kid. If you're 6'2" and 217 and you can't drive the ball, that's an issue.
That's an issue, as well as I think what also made him fall was a lot of the teams that are QB needy. They went quarterback real early. Outside of that, and there's no other teams. Like there's no spot for him to go and be a starting level quarterback or a backup quarterback. A lot of teams have their stuff set, so it's kind of hard. I honestly really thought Atlanta was going to go with him later in the draft and let him learn behind Kirk. Instead, they went Michael Penix. So it's like there's no need for quarterback right now for most teams, in my opinion.
I got something that I want to ask all 3 of you. So, and this just kind of like came across my mind as Marco was just saying that all of the quarterbacks went so early, right? There was like a mad rush on quarterbacks. Even Michael Penix got picked in a position that I don't think he should have got picked at. Do you think that teams are kind of looking at? Think about it. Trey got drafted 4 years ago, right? 2021, right? With that was the 5. Trevor Lawrence, Mac Jones, Justin Fields, Trey Lance, and who am I missing? Justin Fields, I think, right?
Yep.
So with these quarterbacks, Justin Fields is already on the move. Trey Lance has already been moved. They're already put Mac Jones on the block, okay? And who's the other quarterback outside of Trevor Lawrence? Mac Jones, Justin Fields, Trey Lance.
Those are the guys.
Zach Wilson.
Zach Wilson. Sorry,
He's
Zach
so bad.
Wilson.
So bad. I wanted to forget.
So bad. I forgot about it. I said Justin Fields twice. That's how bad
the
Zach
Cougar
Wilson
Hunter
sucks.
Cougar Hunter himself.
So
how do you
yeah,
so
just like Mulenik said, Zach Wilson is forgettable. So you got them all. That's all that matters.
Exactly.
I think that's Cougar Hunter slander, man. Zach Wilson's going to Denver. It's one of the fastest growing cities. A lot of Cougars there. My brother lives there.
Weird.
It's going to be a.
Do you think this is, and it's off topic, but it's not Niner topic. But my show is it's Clutch Gene Sports. It ain't Niner Gene Sports, right? Do you guys think Bo Nix beats out Zach Wilson?
No.
I know he's a Peyton draft guy, but if Zach Wilson has a solid foundation like around him with a good play style, play calling, do you think Sean Payton falls in love?
That they don't.
No, man. I think Zach is shook in his head. I think he's lost all confidence, man. When you have a whole team like the Jets coming out against him as players, yeah, he had a couple of games after that when he got reinserted, but I think he has to sit for a little bit and gain some confidence. Maybe Peyton can help him with that. I think Peyton's gonna start with Nix though. Dave,
because I don't think Nix is ready right away.
Yeah, I don't think Zach Wilson. I think Zach Wilson is. I don't know if he's lost all confidence, like you said, but I also don't think Sean Payton. I don't think this is going to be a competition. I know, like Marco said, that if you brought in Pratt or you bring things, even like when Purdy came in, right? Like all the revisionist history that Jed said before the Super Bowl. Oh, he was the best guy in training camp. He was our best quarterback. Oh yeah. That's why you brought Jimmy Garoppolo back at the 11th hour. You stop gaslighting me. Right. So here's my thing. Like, it's not really going to be a competition.
That is cold.
No, it's not.
Such a goaded comment.
I mean, look at the camera.
Did you look at the comment? Look at the comment.
Like Jimmy by the book.
What? Where's the comment? I can't.
I'm not even going to laugh at that.
I'm not going to read it.
Yeah.
But
I tell you.
Joseph Smith for the win.
Hey, so did Steve Young, though. So let's be fair.
John Smith, man.
Joseph Smith, yeah. Brigham Young. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's
Brigham Young.
Yeah. I think it's
that's cold. That's
Steve
cold.
Brigham. I just think
that's cold.
Brigham Young should be Brigham Young, I think. For Brigham Young University is really what it's. What did I say?
No, but going back to, I'm going to change the topic. So going back to Zach Wilson and what do you call it? The reason why I ask is because when I look at Zach Wilson and Bo Nix, I don't think Bo Nix is ready to play year one, right? This is where I see Sean Payton saying he lost the job. He lost the competition. Bo Nix did year one. He's not ready just yet. Let Zach, we already know what Zach Wilson is. Throw his ass in the fire. Why are you going to throw your rookie quarterback in the fire when he's not ready to play year one? You have a quarterback you can now throw in there and say, hey, he looked good in camp. Arm talent is there and everything like that. So you could throw him in the fire. You don't have to throw your young rookie quarterback in the fire and let him fail right away. You can let him learn 4 or 5 weeks in, 8 weeks, finally has a full grasp of the offense. Then you can put him in and have him start where you're not throwing him into the fire where he's getting killed. That's what I kind of think why they traded for Zach Wilson, because he could potentially be that dude who gets tossed into the fire, let him get eaten by the wolves, and then you throw in your quarterback once he's ready.
Yep.
All right. But Marco, what are they gonna say in the media? Not that it really matters what the media says, but you take this guy first round, what was he, 12th overall, and you sit him behind Zach Wilson. I mean, how's that? I mean, why not let him? To me, it's kind of like the whole Trey Lance thing. You draft someone, you don't think he's ready, but get him ready. I don't think he's going to get ready sitting on the bench. Yeah, you don't want to demoralize him by having him. But I mean, look, it works out. Some quarterbacks do well, even though they start off crappy. Look at Manning. Look at Elway. I think he started off pretty shaky as well. So I think if you're inexperienced or not ready, the best way to get ready is get your butt on the field, right?
But I also think too, though, like for example, just because he doesn't start week 1 doesn't mean he's not your starter by week 5, right? Like so, like just giving him those extra weeks to learn the offense, where you're throwing Zach Wilson into the fire. You don't have to throw in your rookie quarterback week 1 because your quarterback's not ready week 1, knowing the offense and knowing everything like that. That's where, and Sean Payton don't care. He'll go to the media and tell him that off. Like he did it last year with Russell Wilson. He told Russell Wilson to his face, "Shut the hell up." Like went to the media. Told them to their face. Like he was disrespectful to Russ. Let's be straight up.
He was very disrespectful, and I think he's only got so many times before he can get away with that.
Ooh, Sean Payton?
Yeah.
Sean Payton's the most overrated coach of the NFL. I've said this for a long time.
He's been that, go.
He's been that way. He's obviously could be a decent player. I'm not questioning the man's knowledge of X's and O's and be able to scheme things, but he's an asshole and he's a narcissist. And you see him. Did you see him at the press conference where he was like trying to make fun of the Vikings? He really thought he got the Vikings to trade up from 11 to 10. He's like, yeah, we were trying to try to get him. Like, bro, like the Vikings gave up hardly anything to get up one spot. They wanted to reinsure like a good, smart franchise would do, that you don't come out of here like a bridesmaid and got the quarterback. It's like, bro, like you are sitting here laughing at the Vikings and you're the one who drafted Bo Nix, bro. You ran Russell Wilson out of Russell Wilson's not good, but like this idea, and you have no draft capital. And I don't think Sean Payton cares. I think Sean Payton knows that when you're a team that trades picks for a coach, I also think that's garbage. Why on earth are you trading picks for a coach? Like, I think we have to understand that players run this league. And I know coaches are important. I'm not a coach, you're a coach, right? Like I'm a teacher, I'm a coach. But in professional sports, at the end of the day, NBA, NFL, doesn't matter what. It's a player.
We can't teach nobody. Ain't no students showing up.
Yep, exactly. No, seriously. It's a player-driven league, and you still need coaching. Right. Well, yeah, Nate Hackett. I mean, but still, like, I just think that the Broncos are going to be a laughing stock this year. And I think they're going to be competing for the number 1 pick in the draft. And
I think Brother Bob just said Jaheim Bell went to the Patriots. I like what, honestly, you know who had a sneaky solid draft? The Patriots. They really had a sneaky solid draft.
Hey,
it's kind of interesting when Bill Belichick leaves, they have a solid draft, huh?
Hey, speaking of which, I was going to ask if there's any relation. The Vikings drafted center Michael Juergens out of Wake Forest. Is he related to Cam Juergens? Are they brothers?
Might be. I think he is actually.
Because Cam Juergens was an interior lineman for Nebraska and then went to the Eagles. So I was just wondering if there was and I don't see any
they are
profile.
Related.
I've never even heard of this dude, Michael Juergens. So the center out of Wake Forest. So
they're related.
Okay.
Based off of what I just pulled up. But I could be wrong. Also, like a minute into fact checking, you know.
And then the Vikings draft another guy with no profile, Levi Drake Rodriguez out of Texas A&M Commerce. You know, that is the flagship school of the Texas. Don't forget UT, forget the Aggies. We're talking about A&M Commerce. I've never heard of that school in my life, and this is why the 7th round is amazing.
And speaking of which, question on the Patriots. Sorry. They also took Joe Milton. You think they'll convert him, or they just have a backup plan at quarterback?
I don't think it's a backup plan at quarterback. I think it's more so you develop someone, let him be. You never know what Drake what could happen to Drake, man. You develop this guy. I want to see Joe Milton given a shot to develop at QB before he's transitioned to tight end. He has arm talent. Like, I don't think you don't know where the ball's going when he throws, but he has arm talent. Like, so that's one thing, right? Like, Senior Bowl was like one of the worst accuracy watch Senior Bowls I've ever seen. Like, bro, dude was 5 yards from him. He's throwing the ball 25 yards over his head. So it's like, doesn't know where the ball's going, but has the talent, can't convert to a tight end. And if he is converted to a tight end, he needs to add some weight and add some strength. But I would not mind them doing that because that is a smart play. Oh, this is a great topic. But first, I'm gonna hold on. First, I'm gonna go to Ashley. Shout out to Ashley. We'll be doing a show, talking about the Niners draft. I don't know if it'll be today, tomorrow. will be going on. Normally we're on Fridays. Shout out to Ashley. She goes, how at the end people stated asking, did Brady make Bill? When do we start having the convo with Sean Payton? Oh, I'm
yeah.
for sure. Sean Payton was because of Drew Brees.
Well,
Yeah.
look,
Hell.
and I'll say this: I've been hard on Bill Belichick myself. Like, not saying he's a fraud. One thing I have to say, I really like watching him when he's not in front of a microphone at a press conference. His personality actually does come out. It shows how contrived kind of it is when you're dealing with the media. But then when he's out just like talking ball, like him talking to Barry Sanders the other day was awesome. Like him just paying him these super nuanced and detailed compliments about how they used to game plan against him when he was with the Giants and Bill Parcells. I would just say this: those conversations should always happen. And one of my coaches, I was a running coach, track cross country coach baseball too. One of the things as a running coach is a guy, his name was Jack Daniels of all things, legendary running coach. But he always said that a great coach is just somebody who has a great relationship with a great athlete. And this idea that coaching is relationships, but it's not just like buddy. And I think that there can be things where that coaching really does elevate. But the coach always said, you're never a great coach without that great athlete. So just don't ever forget that. And there are a lot of people that are decent coaches that have great athletes that don't do anything. But there are also like not that many that get the GOAT like Bill Belichick did. Sean Payton getting Drew Brees, who exceeded expectations. And they got one Super Bowl, but that's all you need, right? But he rode that Super Bowl forever. And I think it's relevant to sit here and pump the brakes on the coach as God. Like, look there's so many good coaches in all of professional sports. Why do we look at these figureheads as head coaches as like saying like these? And I feel the same way about Jim Harbaugh. I think Jim Harbaugh does a great job as a college coach. I think in the NFL, I think he's a good, fine coach. I also think he's a figurehead. I don't think he's a silver bullet for the Chargers. I'm not against him, but I think we need to like put it this way. I'd rather roll with KOC in Minnesota than any of these big name guys that people want to trade draft picks for. I would rather, I don't know. I think that there needs to be room for more young blood in coaching and stop revering and worshiping these guys and start putting more credit on the players.
Well,
Go ahead, Coach.
I understand where you're coming from. And I've had many great coaches and mentors in my life. I'm sure all of you have.
Mm-hmm.
And what I see with like vested coaching is being able to bow out at the right time. I feel like when you're able to galvanize a group of people, it's a gift. You're right. From a logical standpoint, coaches are nothing without pupils, right? You need the players, right? But at the same time, you still need somebody who is like very experienced at like relationships, like knowing how to bring the best out of people, knowing how to manage, knowing how to manage personalities, understanding how to be a servant leader where you're at the servitude of the people that you need the most out of. And there is something to be said about how great teams can be wasted on bad coaching. Now, there are teams where they could be great all day, but it wasn't until they got the right voice in the room until they saw the best fruition of what they could really become, and that could just be what it takes to get a goal going, right? And that's the thing about coaches is that coaches are no bigger than the goal. Once the goal is accomplished, then you are no longer needed as a coach until we get a new goal. So my thing is that, like, look at Tampa. Tampa used Tony Dungy to the point where they couldn't get anything more out of his leadership, and he had to move on, right? They needed a new voice, right? And that's what got them over the hump. And because of that, you could almost say, yeah, Tampa got over the hump. But in some instances, did they waste a dynasty? All of those years that they were coming up to the NFC Championship games and losing, or is it what they needed to be able to push to the last goal that they needed, right? I mean, you could say that about the Niners as far as coaching is concerned, right? Is there a point where we start monitoring whether or not Kyle has done his level best with this team? right?
What the heck,
Is,
coach? Look, brother Bob's already. He's ready to run through a wall. Look at him.
yeah. Like,
but
is that a real conversation? And when are we going to have it? Like, do we have to lose as a franchise and not make the playoffs or get a losing record before we start looking at Kyle a certain way on whether or not we want to lateral over and save what we have for our organization? Are we really going to like go down with the ship with Kyle's way? Because if we do, just understand that when we lose, it's going to be 100% because we acquiesce to everything Kyle wanted to do, because that's the way we run our organization right now. So the real question is, how is Jed gonna grow as an owner, right? Because there's nobody in the organization that can actually challenge Kyle. Literally no one, not even John. So who's really there to push us to the next level, to win that Super Bowl, to be a championship organization? Who's gonna be the second voice in the room?
For the coach talk, I would say, because I know we're talking about the coaches and stuff like that, like how do coaches win and stuff like that. I disagree when it comes to Bill Belichick that Brady or Belichick needed Brady, right? Brady also had Brady also had, I think both of them were as equal to each other's success, and people don't want to admit it because Brady's offenses were usually pretty always good, like always. But he also always had a top 5 defense every year. And that's credit to Bill Belichick.
Yeah.
You know how much easier it is to win a Super Bowl with a top 5 defense if you're an elite quarterback than it is to win in an all world. Literally. So like their success is as equal to each other. That now the moment that the offense was no longer on par is when they fell off. And that's when they lost Tom Brady. I don't think that's because that Bill Belichick wasn't a great coach. He was still coaching up a top 5 defense, a top 2 defense, even when he had Mac Jones. It was just they had the wrong quarterback. So if he would have gone Kirk Cousins, right, I still think they would have been in the playoffs and running deep into the playoffs because of the opportunity to have a great defense that's championship level defense. Now, you could also say the same thing about Brady. It's much easier to win a Super Bowl when you have a great offense, right? That's why when he went over to Tampa, they won a Super Bowl right away. Guess what? Their defense was also really damn good. So it's like people like to kill Belichick because of Belichick as a head coach. As soon as he lost Brady, he didn't win another ring, and Brady won a ring instantly. Belichick's biggest issue isn't as a coach or a head coach. His issue was always as a general manager. That was the issue with Bill Belichick. The Bills. The Bills' legacy is his defense, man. And I think that's what people will kill Bill Belichick for. And I disagree when it comes to the Bill Belichick Brady talk. I think they're both as equal to each other's success. And people just want to give the credit to Brady or credit to Bill. I agree with you, David, that I do think players should have more power and more say because they're the ones who are the ones on the field and doing things. But when you have a great coach, it makes things a lot easier, man. Like it truly does.
Well, I think the question that coach had though was that about Kyle is who is the check on whether or not those, and I don't think there's any question. It seems like within the organization, the teams feel, the players to a person typically feel, and I'm not saying it's to a person, but it does seem like they feel like it's an environment that's a winning culture, so to speak, right? That's great. And winning is awesome. And they have won quite a bit. But we have won the Super Bowl. And so this idea, though, that who is in the fact that Kyle has so much outsized influence, I'm not saying that's even unique. There's a lot of organizations where the guy, the head coach is the de facto figurehead, you know? But who is that check on Kyle? Is it Jed? Is Jed actually gonna ever question Kyle at all, or is Kyle write his own paychecks? And I'm not anti-Kyle. I'm not. I'm just. It is an interesting question. It's an interesting thought experiment, right? Like this idea that if shit does hit the fan, if things do regress, where is the pressure to evolve, change? Where will that come from, or will it not come at all?
Right.
I think that's Coach's point. And as a huge 49er fan, this is what concerns me the most because I'm not a homer. I can be realistic about it. Okay.
Mhm.
Without some type of pushback or check on on Kyle Levy, then I think we're going to see much of what we've seen. Talented team that gets close, can't pull it off, and it looks like we're getting to the point where it's going to start all over again. But I don't know what will make Jed decide to either move on from Kyle or strip power from Kyle. I'm looking at this draft as we come to the last pick, and I'm looking at it, giving it my grade just as a fan and as someone who's watched football for 40 plus years. I haven't coached it, but I don't look at this. I look at this draft as a C plus B minus. It's good to see us try to approach positions and address positions that we need and holes, but I also think that we're not using, the draft picks in the right order for some of these players we drafted. So I'm concerned. Will someone say, Kyle, okay, you need to leave the general manager duties to someone else, to Lynch and his team? Likewise, I think we have a problem with Kyle as head coach and offensive coordinator. I do think that a lot of times he's got his head buried into his play sheet where he should be looking back at the big picture. We're looking back at time management, So that's my concern because I can see us being in this constant loop where we're good, but not good enough.
Yeah, that's definitely the situation with Kyle. And I think the last topic we'll get to before we head out is
I gotta go.
All right,
Nope.
you're good.
I gotta go, but hey, it's great to.
No, it's good. We could end it here. We're good. We
Coach.
can end it here. I wanted to get to one of the questions, but we can end it here. I'll make that a topic for one of the next shows. I'll make it a topic with with Jay Hart.
Okay. I didn't mean to.
But no, you're good. You're good. It is 7th round. I don't care about the 7th round. Truthfully,
6 hours today, baby.
But shout out to everyone who tuned in after tuning into Last Second Sports and to us like that. Shout out to Brother Bob, David, and the coach for jumping in with me. Appreciate everyone in the chat. Make sure you guys go follow them on social media at Backcountry Fam. And then, Coach, yours is not Bang Bang.
Yeah, that's my YouTube channel. My YouTube channel is
channel?
bang-bang_49. I've been gone for a month, guys. I'm back. And literally, all three of these guys, they don't know it yet, but they're going to be guests on my show. So we're all going to be on. We're going to do things. We're going to be back. So it's going to be good, guys. Stay tuned.
Love it.
I appreciate y'all. Y'all have a good one.
Yeah. Bye.